Hello everyone, my name is Lil Ushio, and I'm going to be showing you guys the various Kung Fu Master wind rotations. First, let's start off with the most basic Kung Fu Master rotation. This first rotation is the most effective way to avoid losing any chi, and is mainly used during leveling until you reach endgame content. It starts with left mouse, 2, left mouse, and F. Chaining them continuously will make it look like this. The next basic rotation is much more simple because all it is just 2, left mouse, and F, which just looks like this. However, the downside is that this rotation devours your chi unless you have high crit rate and one unlocked Hung Moon skill. The reason for high crit is because straight jab, your left mouse, recovers 1 extra chi on crit, and if you've unlocked the Hung Moon skill for swift strike, your 2, you refund the chi you've used if you land a critical hit with it. Now, let's take a look at the most important skill for the Kung Fu Master, Searing Palm. This skill is unlocked at level 45 and is very crucial as it increases DPS not only for yourself, but also for your party members. Searing Palm has 4 stages, meaning it can be casted 4 times with each stage increasing your damage. Searing Palm increases your critical by 10, 20, 30, 50% per stage, your critical damage by 5, 10, 15, 20% per stage, and critical rate increases by 100% during stage 4. When players hit an enemy that's been struck with Searing Palm, they are given the Driven buff. This buff stacks up to 10 times, increasing critical damage by 1% per stack, and only lasts 3 seconds, but will continually refresh if you keep hitting your enemy. Now, I recommend you pay attention to this part as well, as you'll need to learn which skills can proc and which skills can decrease the cooldown of your Searing Palm. I'll be listing those skills right here. For those skills, we have Iron Shoulder, Smite, Counter, Shin Kick, Pivot Kick, Avenging Fist, Chained Mace, Shadow Dance, Footwork, Backstep, Roaring Tiger, and lastly, Flurry. Searing Palm has a 1-minute cooldown timer, which starts once you use stage 1, and for most Kung Fu Master players, the skill will still be on cooldown by the time stage 4 is over. So, by utilizing some of these skills that can reduce the cooldown of your Searing Palm will never have to be on cooldown. What you need to understand about the wind version for Searing Palm is that in order to keep up 100% uptime for it, you need to make use of a timer on each stage. Stage 1 and 2 has a 15-second timer, while stage 3 and 4 has a 10-second timer. If you can make use of the timer on each stage, then you'll never have any sort of downtime for Searing Palm. I'll demonstrate here on Acromore right here how it should look like if you utilize all your skills that I've listed before. First, we'll apply stage 1 for the 15-second timer, apply Smite and Pivot Kick for the cooldown reduction, Flurry for the cooldown reduction, and applying stage 2, Counter for the reduction, Iron Shoulder into Pivot Kick for cooldown reduction, apply stage 3, Smite for stage 4, and with all that done, I should have stage 1 as soon as stage 3 is right here. Stage 1 applied again. Iron Shoulder, Pivot Kick, cooldown, Roaring Tiger for cooldown, rotation. Apply stage 3. Apply stage 4. And once again, stage 1 should be up again, just like that. These next few rotations are meant for endgame, which require specific items that negate a majority of the information I've already provided. The first 2 items is highly recommended for people who've just reached endgame, with the first one I'm listing being the Magnum Sol Badge. This badge applies the first stage of Searing Palm on hit with the Guiding Fist, which is your right mouse button, and it also resets the cooldown of Roaring Tiger. As you can see, as I use right mouse button, I have applied the first stage of Searing Palm. A tip that you should know about this badge is that even if your Searing Palm is on cooldown, the badge will always apply the first stage for Searing Palm. See, as I apply the first stage normally, I have the cooldown for Searing Palm right here. And while we wait for this to run out, 2, 1. As you can see, I can no longer apply it because it's on cooldown, but if I just use right mouse button again, I've already applied stage 1, and you can continue to apply stage 2, 3, and 4, regardless of the cooldown. The second item is called the Skyrift Mystic Badge. This badge enables the use of Cyclone Kick after a Comet Strike, and it also increases attack power by 500% on the next Cyclone Kick after a successful Comet Strike. Here is the damage difference without using Comet Strike, about 68,000, and here it is after using Comet Strike. That gives me 101k. That gives me about a 30k difference in damage, which is something I would definitely take. When you've collected these 2 items, having to manage the cooldown for Searing Palm will no longer be a problem, and your opening rotation DPS will have increased dramatically. With that being said, I'll show you guys how to do an opener for the Kung Fu Master. Now, however, if you don't have the Magnum Sol Badge, don't worry, as you can still use this opener without it. I'll show you 2 ways how to do it right now. The first way is to start with counter into Avenging Fist followed by tab VX, or you can do V tab X, basing it off your preferences. Now, pressing these skills successfully will do an animation cancel for 3 skills at once, and as you can see, once doing that, I've applied 3 different buffs. I'll show you again. Counter, Avenging Fist, tab VX. You can see blue buff here, first stage Searing Palm, and Tremor. The second way requires you to be within an 8-meter radius, as instead you will start with Roaring Tiger first, followed by right mouse into tab VX. I'll show you again right here. Roaring Tiger, right mouse, tab VX. Now, if you have acquired the Magnum Sol Badge, then all you need to do is use right mouse button followed by tab V, or V tab, however you prefer it. However, if you do apply the previous methods that I mentioned before, you will apply stage 2 Searing Palm instead of stage 1. For example, if you did the first way, it'll be counter into Avenging Fist followed by right mouse button into tab VX. See, as you can see, I've applied stage 2 instead of stage 1 this time. Now that you understand how the opener works, there is the following rotation which comes after it, which is 4RFR. This rotation works at its best when you have the Fighting Spirit buff activated, because it refreshes the cooldown for Comet Strike. However, do use it every time Comet Strike does come off cooldown to maximize your DPS. Once you get used to the opener and rotation 4RFR, you should get something that looks like this once you combine it all together. This is how your opening rotation should look like for the first 10 seconds. Now for the hardcore endgame items. If you can do the Temple of Illuvium raid, the item you'll be looking for is the Aranzu Mystic Badge. This badge triggers Shenlong form for 10 seconds, which allows you to cast Cyclone Kick consistently without the need of having a Warlock in your party. This form also triggers the Dragonflare effect, which deals 450% wind attack power and pierces parry and defense skills within the range of its effect, meaning this badge gives you an AoE with Cyclone Kick. With this badge, your rotation from then on would only be RF. First, you apply the first stage Searing Palm, and it's just RF, 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 RF. Simple, isn't it? Quick tip. If you use the Magnum Sol Badge with the Aranzu Mystic Badge, you should know that if you apply Searing Palm with right mouse button, you will not get the effect from the Aranzu Mystic Badge. So instead, you will need to apply Searing Palm Stage 2 to obtain the effect instead. Finally, for the last item, the Ancestral Soul Badge. I mentioned this item last because it is the hardest to obtain, as you will need to combine the Glory Soul Badge and the Illuvium Soul Badge. This badge enables Searing Palm Stage 4 and resets the cooldown of Searing Palm after using Tremor. It also resets the cooldown of Tremor after using Fighting Spirit. So if you wish to use this badge efficiently, you will need to cast Tremor first before Fighting Spirit. Meaning, if you got used to using Tab VX, you will now need to get used to doing it V Tab X from now on. So the combo would be like this: Tremor for the instant cast of use Stage 4 Searing Palm, Fighting Spirit for the reset of Tremor, an RF rotation until the Stage 4 Searing Palm runs out, then reapply Tremor and Stage 4 Searing Palm. I'll give you a little demonstration right here. Now, let's do a quick rundown of everything as well as give you some extra info. R2RF is mainly used for leveling, and it's the most efficient rotation to avoid losing any chi. 2RF requires high crit rate, as well as the Hong Moon skill unlocked for Swift Strike. Searing Palm has a 1-minute cooldown. For Wind, Stage 1 and 2 has a 15-second timer, Stage 3 and 4 has a 10-second timer. It requires the use of multiple skills to proc the use of Searing Palm and to reduce the cooldown of Searing Palm. It is recommended to use the full timer of each stage if you do not have the Magnum Sol Badge. Opening rotation and 4R FR. Without the Magnum Sol Badge, start with Avenging Fist or Roaring Tiger. With the Magnum Sol Badge, start with right mouse button. However, if you wish to apply Stage 2 Searing Palm first, start with Avenging Fist or Roaring Tiger followed by right mouse button. You can use Tab VX or V Tab X, your personal preference. If you're unable to do 4RFR, just doing 4RF is okay. If you've acquired the Aranzu Mystic Badge, there's no longer a need to use 4RFR. Magnum Sol Badge. This badge applies the first stage of Searing Palm on hit with right mouse button, and also resets the cooldown of Roaring Tiger on hit with right mouse button. This badge is not required to upgrade into the Arcana Soul Badge, as the badge itself on its own is good enough. Having this badge also no longer requires the cooldown management of Searing Palm. Skyrift Mystic Badge. It increases Cyclone Kick damage after a successful Comet Strike, and also allows the use of Cyclone Kick after a successful Comet Strike. It is recommended to obtain this badge if you cannot raid the Temple of Illuvium for the Aranzu Mystic Badge. Aranzu Mystic Badge. This is obtained from the Temple of Illuvium raid. It triggers Shenlong form on a successful Searing Palm hit, and triggers Dragon Flare on a Cyclone kick. With the effect of Dragon Flare, you now have AoE damage. And with Shenlong form, it is no longer required to have a soul burn to do an RF rotation. Enemies you initially target will now hit twice due to the AoE. You can either use this with the Magnum Sol Badge or the Ancestral Soul Badge. It is your personal preference. Ancestral Soul Badge. This badge allows the use of Stage 4 Searing Palm after a Tremor. Tremor resets the cooldown of Searing Palm, while Fighting Spirit resets the cooldown of Tremor. To obtain this badge, it is required to have the Illuvium Soul Badge and Glory Soul Badge for evolution. Using this badge means having to manage the cooldown for Searing Palm again if you cannot use Tremor or Fighting Spirit during fights. This badge is based heavily around cooldown resets, and it is recommended to at least have a 3 Soulshield set of Pugilist and at least a Raven, Riftwalk, or Dawnforged weapon. If you're wondering why I've said these things about the Ancestral Soul Badge, please check the description below and I'll provide more insight to it. However, if you have any more questions about anything else, please leave a comment below and I'll do my best to give you an answer you are satisfied with. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this. And also, till this day, fire build still sucks.